to another pen review. Today I've got something actually quite special. This is a pen, actually, I won't call it really a vintage pen, but certainly a pen that's not being produced, or the original version is not being produced today. The company did launch a new version, which in my opinion is not as great as the original. And the pen we're talking about today is the Omas 360. I was lucky enough to find it on eBay from a seller, and it was actually in great condition. I got one heck of a deal on this pen. And it's an oversized pen, and here she is. Absolutely gorgeous. This is in black, and I actually got it with a fine nib, so I was lucky enough to do that because that's the type of nib I wanted. It's the black with gold trim. We've got the gold clip, the gold band with the Greek symbols there. We've got a gold band on the back. This is a piston filler, so this is the piston mechanism. It turns. We've got a kind of a cone shape. Well, it's triangular, so but it's a semi-rounded there top as well as the bottom. And the clip does pull off. It's not a screw top, it's a pull off. And this one came with the two-tone 18 karat nib. So here we've got the, you can see up close, it says Omas 750, 18 karat right below there, and on the side here, F for fine. It's got the ebonite feed, and Omas is known for its nibs and the smoothness, and this nib is no exception. Absolutely glorious to write with, and it is triangular, as you can well see. And because your fingers, when you put them together, they form right here a triangle. So naturally, when you're holding, the grip is going to be very comfortable. Your finger rests on the flat end, and then here you can grip these two ends here. Very comfortable. Actually, one of the most comfortable pens I've written with. And it may seem odd and look strange, but certainly very, very comfortable. To give a size comparison on this pen, just so you can see, okay, we've got, this is the Omas 360, and next to it I'm going to put the Pelikan Souveron M1000. Okay, so here's the M1000. I'll try to do a diagonal here. Bottoms are lined up. The Omas still has it by size, lengthwise. Girth-wise, it's kind of hard to say. Obviously, the Omas is thicker, just probably because of the design. So this one makes the M1000 look a little small, which is interesting because the M1000 is a big, big pen. If we put it next to, let's say, the one down below the 149, I have the 146 here as well. Bottoms are lined up, and so it dwarfs the 146 as well. So certainly this is not a small pen. It will not fit in most of my pen cases. It will jut out a bit, so it's not really convenient for pen cases, typical traditional pen cases anyway. Unfortunately, when I got it off of eBay, the seller I purchased it from actually said he bought it in lieu of 149, and he never or rarely used it. For 2 years it's been sitting in his collection, and there is, I'm looking at the pen, there's no damage. The gold is in there. I mean, there's a few scuffs or marks, and on the back here of the cap you'll see it says Omas Italy, and that's the only markings other than the gold trim on the pen, outside of course, the nib, which says Omas. Piston filler holds a considerable amount of ink, and especially being a fine nib, I haven't not had an issue with it running out of ink. So, great pen, very lightweight. It's resin, black resin there, and it's super, super lightweight. Even posted, and it does post pretty securely. If I'm writing, you'll notice it hangs pretty much way off the hand, but it's so light, I can still write with it posted. Even though it's not awkward enough to where I'm having difficulty, and it certainly is not back heavy. I mean, this thing is so well balanced. But unposted, you know, wow, still very, so both ways are, for me, easy to write with. If I have nowhere to put the cap down conveniently, then I will post it. If not, then I can take it off and write unposted. We'll do a little writing sample here. This is the Omas 360, and this is oversized. Okay, and we're using, actually the ink is Parker Quink black. Yay, black. I don't use black too often, but I figured I would. We'll do and it's a fine nib. 18 karat gold. Being a fine, you're not going to get too much flex, but I'll show you. You can get some flex out of it. It is a very soft nib and very springy. Do a writing sample. Very smooth. I mean, absolutely buttery smooth across the page. We'll do quick writing. Boom, no startup issues, no skips. I mean, this thing is great, and look at that, already very wet even on a Rhodia pad. In terms of ink, lays down a nice even patch of ink. And again, being Rhodia paper, this, just keep in mind, it does absorb well, but it's very smooth. It takes a minute more to absorb, but still, I'd say a moderate amount of ink, but it is somewhat wet. But no complaints, absolutely no complaints. And it's, you don't even need to put a whole lot of pressure on this pen. I mean, I'm holding the back of the pen. I'm putting zero pressure on this. Look at that. It writes. That's the great part of this pen, is it writes. So it does what it's supposed to do. Very little pressure at all. Start flexing a little bit. For a fine nib, I mean, look at that. That is terrific variation. If we do, this is a fine nib. I mean, I mean, look at this. There to here, no pressure, more pressure, more pressure. That is a variance, no question. And, again, for a fine, but then again, it's an 18 karat nib, so you would kind of expect that. And again, back to look at that. Two-tone is fantastic. So you have the gold. Some of these nibs that came out were just all gold. So I was lucky enough to get the one with the two-tone nib, which I love. Two-tone nibs, they just look great. But you will get some line variation in there, which is terrific. Between this line and that line, there is some variation. So, boom, and then the thick line there, you can see. Great thing about this pen, unlike some Pelicans that I write with, this one doesn't have bleed through issues, so you're not going to have bleed through. Even on regular copy paper, there's a little bleed through as long as you're not flexing very heavily. And the other part of it is there's not a whole lot of feathering even on the on regular paper, which is terrific. So this could be an everyday writer versus the Pelican, uh, my fine nib in the Pelican M1000. Good luck. It is a wet writer. And just to give you an example, this is the Pelican. And I'm running low on ink here. I just haven't even refilled this, but let's just give it an example. The Pelican, you can even see how dark it is here. It is a wet writer. The Pelican just writes very, very wet. Even for fine, it's just, and the flex on this is just, it's not even comparable to that. This, to me, this almost writes like a medium. But, you know, you cannot use the M1000 on regular paper. It's just going to bleed through, or extreme feathering. I mean, real extreme feathering. I mean, look at this. I've already wrote, I'm running out of ink, but you could see what kind of flex this can give. Much, much more flex. Okay, so the difference is the M1000 wouldn't be great for everyday paper, but the Omas is. So you still get some flex. Okay, you see the difference there. But the difference is too with this pen, you can use this on everyday paper. So, and it being a fine nib is great because this really does write like a true fine. You can use this to sign. I can use this to sign documents. Now, if I have a client that I'm getting signed, they're like, "What in the world?" This is a triangular pen, but ergonomically, correct. Ergonomically, so easy to use and so easy to write with. I mean, it's just amazing. Um, you know, boom, and it keeps up with your writing. So, this Omas was a great treasure for me, and I got it at a great price. It was funny because it was on eBay, and they were doing bids, or there was a purchase price, and people had been bidding on this, and this is the only one I could find. The only Omas on eBay was this one, the 360, in black. They have the new ones that came out, and they were like, they have some sort of weird pattern on them, and they're like clear smoke. Oh, they look awful. I just do not like it. They didn't have the original black, and they weren't a two-tone nib. So when I found this, I paid full price. I mean, no kidding. Now, granted, it was still a reduction compared to what these pens used to go for. I did not pay full retail for what they were going for when they were introduced on the market. Um, I paid a fraction of that, but to me, I'm like, oh my god, for one of the last Omas 360s, the originals oversized pen, it was a great deal. And now to realize when I got it, unfortunately, I didn't get the box, the case. It just the seller wrapped it in bubble wrap, the pen, and sent it. That's okay because this is going to be my collection. You'll notice here the clip, very springy, great condition. I mean, the gold trim is in great condition. Again, there was just a few little scuff marks. There was a scuff mark here at the tip, but nothing major, and nothing that I probably wouldn't have put on the pen, in a year or so. So this is going to be a great pen for the collection. Do I recommend it? If you ever find an Omas 360 in black on the market, yes, get it. The writing is phenomenal. Ergonomically, great to hold, great in the hand. I mean, probably the one of the most comfortable pen to write with, one of the most comfortable pens to write with that I own, and I have a pretty wide selection of pens, very very high end to mid range to some low end pens, and just terrific. And it being a piston filler is just massive bonus. And also, by the way, the new Omas 360s, I believe they got rid of the piston filling in their cartridge converter, or cartridges now, and they got rid of the cap. Doesn't have this rounded. It's like this flat, angled section now with the big O for the Omas. Not a fan. I mean, they don't look awful, and they're shorter too. So, if you get a chance to pick one of these up on eBay or anywhere that you can find it and it's in good condition, certainly well worth a purchase. I would say jump on it. And if you've never considered getting an Omas or owned an Omas, it doesn't matter if it's a 360 or any other kind. My experience with Omas and their nibs is just, they are phenomenal, and they're so super smooth. I mean, the tines came in perfectly aligned. Thank gosh there was no funny business happening, with the previous seller. But it was just, what a terrific find. So absolutely, I can recommend this pen, hands down. No question. The nib is just phenomenal. If you're lucky enough to get the two-tone, then go for it. I mean, it just looks amazing. What a great pen. And the 18-karat nib, again, gives you that springiness and that flexibility to get a little bit of flexing. Now, if you have a medium, you're going to get a little bit more flex. But I prefer the fine. So, I appreciate you watching. Stay tuned for some more reviews to come. And we've got quite a bit coming. Oh, by the way, because it's triangular, not going to roll around. You put it down, boom, it's staying. Thanks again for watching, and stay tuned for the next video. Bye-bye.